Hello and welcome to the Metalheads Podcast. My name is George.
This is Buke.
And this is Jay.
And we are joined today by the guys from Hoth. Okay, would you please introduce yourselves and tell us what you do?
Hey, I'm Eric from Hoth, and
Greetings, I am David from
Hoth. Yeah, we're both from Hoth. We're the Hoth guy.
The Hoth brothers.
Yeah,
It's nice. It only occurs to me now that when you both say you're from Hoth, there's not a lot of bands. I mean, it would be Kansas and bands like that when they say they're from a place, it sounds like they're from a place. I mean, we're actually from Hoth.
Gentlemen, first off, here on the Metalheads Podcast, we've done, what, George, 46, 47 episodes now?
This is episode 45.
Okay, bands from all over the world we've had on and interviewed. But this is now, what, the fourth band from the Seattle area?
Oh.
Yeah, we had a Flourishing Scourge, and we had Theories.
Theories. We had Ashen Horde.
Ashen Horde's actually L.A.
LA, yeah. But the implication is that you guys have something that resembles the scene up there. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there's actually a handful of pretty good bands in the area. Shout out to one of our favorite local bands, Skeletor, traditional heavy metal. Put on kick-ass shows around here. If you haven't listened to them, you got to check them out.
Okay, Skeletor is a great name.
Sounds
With a
familiar.
name like that, that's awesome. Do they come out with like the castle behind them, the toy that I always wanted as a kid, but I could never fucking get? Oh,
No,
man.
they don't really do the.
No, the dude's got a sword. He comes out with like
he
a
does have a
sword. He's got
sword.
like a long sword.
Oh, that's
I think
badass.
what I really like about them is their vocals are fantastic. The guy just wails. He's probably the closest thing to Iron Maiden I've heard live.
Awesome.
Really? Now that's a bold statement.
I know.
Okay.
I know. And people say that to me, and I'm like, and then I went to go see him, and I'm like, wow, you're actually not lying to me for one second. You know, when people are like, you should check out this band, and then the band sounds like they recorded on a tape recorder, like a play school tape recorder.
Gentlemen, that's actually we've said this for some of the bands we have had on. That's what put you guys on my radar. We love browsing Bandcamp, and like I said this to the guys last week, the last interview. When something like you guys, and when I heard your Oathbreaker album, it makes you literally stop for a second and be like, you know, can I just hear that correctly? Is this actually sounding clear? Is this does this sound like there's production value to this? And more so to that, you guys in the style of, for those who haven't heard you, as a black metal band or melodic death in some parts, even more so, breaking the mold of what like self-produced stuff could be.
Well, I appreciate that. That's really nice to hear. That people
I-
think that it sounds good.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, it sounds amazing. I first wanted to start and ask you guys. You guys have two full-length out, Infinite Darkness and Oathbreaker. You guys, there's definite growth from Infinite Darkness to Oathbreaker, but I saw an interesting thing on Reddit, I believe. One of you guys said that Infinite Darkness was fun, but Oathbreaker was like you guys really getting down to business. Is that a perfect description of it?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty concise way to describe it. I mean, Infinite Darkness was kind of the culmination of the ideas that started the whole project. We sort of had these ideas, and it was just sort of a fun thing that came together, and we were like, hey, that was cool. This was good, but I think we can do better. And so for Oathbreaker, we sort of took a lot of those seeds that we had started, and we grew them. We really pushed ourselves to try and create something that we were really proud of. push it beyond something that was just fun for us, but that we felt like we could stand behind, be really proud of. And I think that we accomplished that to some extent, but it's looking back on it, there's always things where it's like, like we could do this better, we could do that better, and so we're looking towards the future. We're looking for a new album where we can take those bits that we think we can improve and we can make even better. So it's always a continuous process, a continuous growth for us, I think.
Now, with Oathbreaker being independently released by you guys, do you think that kind of frees you guys from maybe having to please a third-party record label or other companies, and you can take what you think you did wrong and maybe fix them going forward without saying, hey, like some big corporate PR guy is, some corporate president's up here saying, oh, I don't like when you did this, Eric, or, David, could you change this?
Yeah, I think it definitely gives us a lot of freedom, and being a completely independent artist is powerful. I mean, you can ask any band. There's no money in making metal. So why be brought down by someone else's expectations? We've been in talks before with people who want us to put out things on vinyl. Get a vinyl deal. It's like, hey, we'll put your album on vinyl, and but you got to do X, Y, and Z. We want to cut these songs off the album to make it short enough to fit on a two sides. We want you to play these shows. We want you to, so it's kind of like, as soon as you're beholden to someone else, then you're not in complete creative control. So I love being in complete creative control, and I know that there's a lot of other independent bands that they definitely they stay away from the big labels. They stay away from anything that would constrain their creativity. So.
But now, is there with that said, is there some things though you wish you're like, man, I wish we had somebody to help us with these whatever.
Oh man, mixing.
Yeah, mixing or something. Yeah, mixing. There you go. Exactly. I wish somebody would help us with this, but
Speaking of mixing, though, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, what's the situation? How did you record? Did this at home? You guys doing it at studio? What were you doing?
Yeah, we did the vast majority of production in the basement of my house, and
awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, I just. I make a pot of coffee. I drink said pot of coffee.
What's your guys brand? What's your favorite brand, and how do you drink it?
I make either French press or pour over, and I just get whatever's dark.
Mike Hill, the lead singer of Tombs. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the band, but he's a big coffee guy. He keeps telling me to get a French press. Apparently, that's the way to go. If you're the second person now saying that.
Well, if you like working to make your coffee. There's that, because you do the filter, you got to clean it, and then you got to grind everything, and if you want to be your own barista, then
I just threw away my Keurig, so I'm taking baby steps.
Lots of coffee, and then I think I really just like self-producing, mostly because whenever I'm in a studio or somewhere else, I, no matter what, feel like I'm on their time. Even if they're like, whoa, it's just per song, or I feel like every take I do where I'm like, I gotta true that up a little bit, where I'm wasting their time instead of my own.
Even if you're paying for it,
Totally, yeah. And so I'm a big fan of self-producing, and then maybe from there moving on and having someone aid with mixing, and then we do have a guy here in Seattle that masters.
I want to be more specific though. Like, what are you doing? You got a PC set up down there, going through a certain program? I mean, what exactly?
Let's see, my whole chain. I've got a couple interfaces. I use stuff from the company Apogee because I like them. They do these.
He's a Mac guy.
I'm an all Apple guy.
The video gamer in me's hurting right now.
I love how plug and play everything is with Apple. Like, I mean, can we curse?
Yes.
Yeah, please, curse.
I don't want to fuck around
frequently
with where it's like drivers. Updates, drivers. And it's like, just plug it in, play. It makes it's out of my way. I'm there making music, and so I use Apogee interfaces. I really like that company, and from there we've got your basic SM57, 58s to mic stuff, and I reamp a lot of stuff. I've actually been using Guitar Rig to reamp stuff, and been really impressed with it. And I do all the bass and guitar takes myself, and then we brought in a couple other musicians on contract to do some stuff. So the stuff you hear on Oathbreaker that's like way out there, the piano. So funny.
That was going to be one of my questions. Who is the piano player?
Fact, my roommate is a piano teacher, and she's a fantastic classical performance pianist, and I had her. So I wrote it, and I kind of hummed it to her. She wrote it out on the staff, and then played it, and then I kind of tweaked it, and then we had her record it. And then one of her best friends plays cello, and so that's how we got the cello on the album, too. So
I'm glad you asked if you could swear before you said pianist, by the way. Well done.
Pianist. I really tried to emphasize the ist.
So, guys, when you're downstairs, because George here, not to throw my friend under the bus, but he had a basement studio, and a pretty nice setup for what he had. Like, he actually had a room off to the side, looked like a pro studio. George is behind the glass. How are you guys getting, the sound, the noise reduction and all that stuff? Do you have, a little soundproof box that you've built? Do you just hang up?
Yeah, we wait until everyone's gone. I mean, I remember, I have a vivid memory of when we were tracking vocals on Oathbreaker, and it was 85 degrees, and it was back when Eric still lived in an apartment, and we were in the middle of Seattle in an apartment, super hot. and there's probably just like 25 other people within 10 feet of us in their apartment. So, and I mean, it worked out. Blankets, it's pretty DIY.
Definitely not the glamorous studio images we have seen, like Megadeth and them over the years, hanging out in the studios.
We do not have Megadeth money.
No.
Are you Duke mentioned gaming, and this was way off track, but are you guys video game players?
Yeah.
Yes.
I asked because there's the acoustic bit on Oathbreaker that comes in pretty early in the album, and I don't know if it's the end of track 1 or the beginning of track 2. I apologize.
Yeah.
I wasn't watching my player, but it sounds like something from Diablo to me.
Oh, yeah. I played all the Diablos. Eric and I both play StarCraft. I was a long-time WoW player, too. And now we both play Destiny, and I'm dabbling in Fallout. So
yeah, we got some Destiny buddies. We got some.
Now,
buddies.
okay. Now I can really ask one of the questions I want to know. You say you're deep into Destiny. Do you find it was a disappointment at first? Total disappointment to me.
I played it for about a month, and then I stopped playing for a year, and I only recently got back into it, and I found a bunch of people to play with. So it was kind of a rebirth, a reawakening of Destiny for me.
PlayStation or Xbox for you guys?
What's that?
Are you guys on PlayStation or Xbox?
Xbox,
I'm on Xbox, he's on PlayStation.
Okay.
So we don't
I'll
actually
have to-
play together.
No.
Yeah, I'll have to get your guys' names later because I'm on both. I'm just a video game slut.
You guys are kind of an interracial family over there. That's interesting that you guys get along. It's nice.
Well, yeah, Xbox,
Yeah, guys,
FedEx, Coke, Pepsi. I'm into it, man.
guys, it's 2016. Sees us now with a new Star Wars film. Are you guys sick of all the Star Wars questions coming to you guys, or did you kind of know going into it that that's what people were going to associate you guys with, even though you guys have clearly said in numerous interviews that the lyrics, like for Oathbreaker, can be attached to Norse mythology, any hero character, video games. It doesn't have to go with like a Star Wars.
Yeah, super sick of hearing. Everybody's like, "Hey, do you like Star Wars? Have you guys seen the Star Wars movies?" And it's like,
hey, Hoth, Han shot first. LOL, am I right?
Right.
yeah. So it's kind of like you think that people like they talk to a Monomarth and they're like, "Hey, what do you think about Vikings, guys?" It's like
What do you think about Tolkien? That's what you took your name from, right?
yeah. So it gets a bit tedious, and I mean, so it's like, yeah, we like Star Wars. Like
We'll talk about Star Wars.
most people like Star Wars.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that we've been. Obviously the first album really. That's how it all started, right? We can't deny that that's how it started. But it's definitely, we don't want to sort of be pigeonholed into this gimmick. Right, and we definitely have tried to compose music that, like you said, and we've said, is sort of has these broader themes that are applicable to the story being told in Star Wars. But I want to show that that's a story told across.
So who is to blame when this episode ends? Who's getting hit saying, "Told you shouldn't have gone with Hoth
And then
in Star
again,
Wars"?
and which, by the way, I also need to just go ahead and wrap up all my fucking questions now. So I'm joking.
But I'm sure you guys were a lot younger when you started. Easy to grab from. The material is there. For somebody who can't even write a fucking lick of lyrics or songwriting myself, I'm a big hockey fan. I could probably write an album about like my Capitals hocky or something like
Hockey
that.
metal.
Yeah, hockey
That
metal.
would be really funny.
Exactly. Gentlemen, you guys moving forward, will this year find new Hoth material coming out?
That would be nice. We can't promise it'll be this year, but
Don't promise that. Yeah.
there will be more in the future. But it's a slow process. It's like we're not beholden to any sort of record contract. We're not supposed to get anything out at any time, so we sort of take it at our own pace, and we definitely take our time to try and make the best possible music that we can.
Guys, is that something that you have found kind of hard, or do you not? Because you guys said it, you're not making money off this. You're not going to get rich off this. Once you put the album out, since it's just you two guys behind it, is it hard? Like, here we are, March 6th right now. Is it hard to, or do you guys not care if people don't find Oathbreaker now, where maybe like if you had like a record label behind you, they'd still be, waving your guys' flag for you guys, a couple years after release.
I think people still find it all the time. Certainly having a record label, having that power of distribution behind you, they can get your album in places that you can't get on your own. So, I mean, there's some benefit to the record label, definitely, in terms of distribution, and I think most of the time that's what bands are paying for. They're paying for that ability to get their album out there to different people. So maybe, but at the same time, I think that, it's almost been 2 years since Oathbreaker's come out at this point, so I think that definitely, the record label will be pushing us to come out with something new at this point, rather than trying to direct people to buying the Oathbreaker album.
Yeah. George, I think he can back me up on this. Him and I, have bought a lot on Bandcamp. I don't think I've had to click on the more button to scroll down the page to see how many people have bought your album like Oathbreaker has. It's incredible how many people have supported this album.
Yeah,
it's awesome to see.
And it's really just through word of mouth and definitely a huge part with Reddit. But also
it's awesome.
Just resharing on Facebook, and then I think maybe about a year ago or now on Facebook, the Black Dahlia Murder shared us. The guy from the Black Dahlia Murder was like,
"Wow,
it's good for you. You'll listen to Hoth." And Eric and I were like, "Holy shit!" And, I think we got like a couple thousand more likes that day on Facebook.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So that was cool. And every now and then, like it doesn't happen as much, but when the album was newer, every now and then there'd be like some blog somewhere that would pick us up and run a feature or something. There was some Hungarian metal website that shared us, and suddenly we had like a disproportionately large number of Hungarian fans, and it was pretty awesome. So
now I really want to go Hungary.
So then when I reached out to you guys to interview you, you're like, "Why the fuck are these guys bothering us 2 years after the fact? Thanks."
Yeah. And they're not from Hungary, so I don't know what that's about. No, they heard about us.
Guys,
It's a little easier to work out a time when you're in our country.
yes.
I have to ask, you guys also, which I think is so cool, have a Christmas album for the God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. Whose idea was that, and how did that come about?
I don't remember whose idea that was, but I don't even remember how we. Yeah,
I'm really into Christmas metal. Mostly spawning from my hatred of Christmas popular music, all that Christmas music. Like as soon as I hear that, I'm like, "Oh, Christmas metal needs to happen." And so I've got this playlist with the Christopher Lee, rest his soul, Christmas songs, and then there's the one I kind of lump in the Twisted Sister Christmas stuff, and then there's a couple crazy guys out there. There's like a total shredmaster who did a Tech Death Tchaikovsky album, and I love the shit out of that.
Ronnie James Dio's "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen" is like top.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So I've got this massive playlist that's ever expanding, and I think I don't know what direction we'll take this year, but I think we do want to do a Christmas song every year. And some Christmas songs, like the way they translate...
Well, we forgot to do one last year.
Yeah, we did.
And the year before.
But we did King Diamond, so we did the King Diamond cover.
Now, okay, were you guys, for your cover or take on King Diamond, are you guys even attempting to hit his vocals, or are you doing it in a Hoth way?
Yeah.
Who is hitting them? Nice!
He's got away with the falsetto.
I've got some weird, freakish falsetto, some demons inside of me.
It's right up where you guys live. It's the first time I saw 3 Inches of Blood.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw Cam Pipes up on stage, and he hits that falsetto, and my head just fucking explodes.
Yeah.
Because it's like you see a big guy like him, and I can't do that. I could do it maybe when I was 11. I love it. I love a good fucking rock scream. I love it.
Oh yeah.
So could we see maybe going forward? Could we see a about face on you guys, and could you guys maybe be like more new wave of British heavy metal, bringing the rock screams out on the new Hoth album?
I don't think that'll happen under the Hoth banner. But the King Diamond song was definitely fun. So it was good. It was good doing a cover like that.
We might do a cover again sometime, but who knows?
You guys like doing covers?
Yes and no. I get frustrated when I have to learn someone else's song.
Yeah.
So, guys, what I have to ask you the boring questions because people want to know what got you guys into metal, and have you guys lived in the Seattle area your whole life? Was the influences coming from living up there? Because obviously, I thought you guys would be like an Alice in Chains band or something.
Oh yeah.
I was born and raised here in the Seattle area, and ever since I really started listening to music, it's been metal. I started with the entry level bands. I started with a lot of Metallica and Iron Maiden, and sort of branched out from there as like a teenager. And now I feel like I'm into the really obscure shit. Just going probably what you guys do, going around on Bandcamp, and you just like find some band that only one person has ever listened to before, and it's just like the best black metal you've ever heard.
That's George.
Something.
Every episode, George hits us with like 20 of those.
Awesome.
And I was mostly raised around here, born in the Midwest. I don't know if this area had an influence on me for metal, but I think around middle school I realized that I really liked double bass. I just liked music that was. One of my weirdo friends who would like wear trench coats to school and those pants with the chains on them was like, "Bro, listen to Dimmu Borgir," and I heard that. I'm serious. And then in like a week, I was like, "I can't stop listening to this."
Was it the Death Cult album?
It was Puritanical Euphoric Misanthropia.
Yep.
Yeah, so I got into them, and then branched off to like Old Man's Child, and started listening to some other black metal in middle school, and I definitely had my embarrassing metalcore phase where I just really liked metalcore, and once I moved out of my parents' house, I got more into. I think compared to Eric, I'm more into death and tech death, and I like some of the showy stuff when it's tasteful.
Eric, do you ever think to yourself, "Why am I in a band with him?"
Yeah,
I think that.
We're losing this connection here. I don't know what's happening, but I guess this.
Uh-oh.
It was the metalcore thing that threw me off.
Yeah.
I think that whenever I always picture when we have this conversation, and we usually do when it's you're in junior high or whatever it is when you're discovering this, and I always picture that scene from The Omen where he's looking at his scalp in the mirror, trying to. He sees the 3 6s on himself. He's like, "Oh no, I am one of those guys."
How did you guys? You guys grow up with one another through middle school, high school? Did you guys find each other recently?
We went to the same high school. We weren't in the same grade. Didn't know each other at all in high school. Didn't even meet each other in high school. But we were. I guess we were there together at the same time. So it was actually after high school. It was actually it was in college when we met. We had a mutual friend and we met, and we I think the first time we hung out, we like took a hike.
I kidnapped him. I actually saw him on the street, and I was like, "I know that guy." When we were we were going to go on a hike to a place called the Bat Caves, and we had never been to the Bat Caves.
They're not actually caves, and there's no bats, but
it's a series of rocks.
Just a creepy old man with a young boy.
It's a van with like blankets covering the windows or something.
I actually just saw him walking on the street, and I was like, "Hey, I know him. He went to my high school." And my friend who was driving actually did know Eric, and then we just rolled down the window and yelled at him to get in the car that we were going to the Bat Caves.
And I was like, "All right."
Okay. Now, what does it say for Eric that without thinking he gets in a van going to the Bat Caves?
So
why not?
So they
Fuck it.
We're going to a dark, secluded place. You want to go?
Fire going on.
Yeah,
So
we were
it's
listening to some power metal.
I was like, "That's some sweet power metal. Let's do it."
Dude, that's even fucking worse, though, dude. It's this a kid on the street, We're going to a dark, secluded place in the woods, and we're listening to Slayer right now. So, I don't know, you interested?
There's some serial killer here who's listening to the podcast who's failed.
Notes.
Yeah, they failed numerous times. Now they're going to get the hookup. They're going to be like, now I can pick him up and just blare some Power of the Dragon flame as I'm pulling up next to him.
If a serial killer is out there and is going to pick people up in a van while listening to metal, he might, statistically, it's probable, pick up someone who is a serial killer who kills people that picks people up in vans listening to metal.
Holy shit. You got a math guy over there. Fuck.
I think my brain hurts now.
That was fucked up. There's no way this guy doesn't work for Microsoft or something. That was an algorithm.
Close. We won't talk about that, though.
Yeah, no. Guys, so when you guys started, after the Bat Caves, which, you don't talk about the Bat Caves, was Hoth you guys' first endeavor together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you guys, was it a 2-piece from the start?
Yes.
Yeah, we were just kind of producing everything, kind of low end, and
Okay, so there are no bodies left at the back caves, so prior members.
it sounded pretty terrible at first. And I guess you could say the demos that led to Infinite Darkness were fueled by beer,
Yeah.
whereas the Oathbreaker was all fueled by coffee.
Have you ever, like, grabbed some other people to, like, play some shows, or is this strictly studio?
I mean, we haven't ruled out ever playing shows, but
We get asked a lot.
it's
So we hear you, and we'd love to.
I was just wondering if you had in the past. Some bands it's 2 people, and then when they go tour or play shows, they just bring in a couple extra players.
We would love to play a live show, and the thing is, we are such perfectionists. I've heard bands that get up there and play, and then what's the gap between how many representatives they have on stage and their actual recording is then made up for by a MacBook. Like, that just eats away at my soul, and so we would need keys and strings and backup vocals and
No, you can't get
bass, 2 guitarists, and yeah. So I have a group in town that I perform with. It's not metal, so I play in this indie rock band, and we play shows about once or twice a month, and yeah, I'm busy with a lot of stuff. But
Is that exciting for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, people get really sweaty and dance, and girls talk to me, and that's
Things that don't happen with metal. Got it.
Yeah, say no more.
You
Yeah,
know what? I need
or
to
in
go.
any other part of the world.
George was at the Slayer Carcass show last night. Hey, George, how many hot girls were there?
Actually, quite a few.
Okay, never mind.
Were they the bartenders, George? Did they work there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of those were pretty good too.
Yeah, but guys, also we're talking about earlier after Oathbreaker, there are some things that bothered you. Were there any things that you received feedback for that you might have just kind of brushed off, but when it came to light, you guys were like, wow, the listeners surprisingly liked that. Maybe we should do more of that. Something that maybe going into it, Eric, you were like you and David were going back and forth, like, maybe we shouldn't even have this in here. But then, like, you're surprised how many people liked it.
Well, I think the things that we thought shouldn't be in there, we took out.
Okay.
I know that there's a choral bit that we recorded that didn't end up in the album. We just didn't like the way it sounded. On the 3rd track on the Cryptic Nightmares, we were going to put a choral bit on the end, sort of an acapella, creepy type thing, and we recorded it and everything, and it just didn't like the way it sounded. Maybe fans would like it, I don't know, but I didn't like it. I didn't feel like it fit the creative vision that we had. But to answer your question, I don't think that we really left anything in that we weren't sure about.
Okay.
And put it in there. But I mean, fans all the time, they say that they absolutely I don't know, just when you make something, you never listen to it with the same perspective that the fans are going to be listening to it. So I mean, they have a totally different experience listening to it. I mean, I don't know the last time I actually listened to the album since
That was going to be my next question, yeah.
I have a saying for that, and it's that music sounds a lot different coming towards you than it does going away from you.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's very accurate.
It's like the Doppler effect.
And also, too, it's Jay. He is in a band. He's a singer in a band. Also, another band. But I only say that because Jay's said before on previous episodes that by the time the product is out there, you have heard it on such a microscopic level. That you are almost kind of blind to.
Tone deaf to it. It almost doesn't sound like music anymore.
Yeah, there's some intense listener fatigue with all of my work, and especially Hoth, because we've got longer songs, and yeah.
Well, like you said, mixing is a nightmare.
Now, we have talked to some bands, solo one-man metal bands. Without having like a normal sized band of 4 or 5 guys, were there any times during the recording where you guys were really going at it, or do you guys' personalities really work for what you guys do?
I feel like we have a really good, it's almost hard for me to imagine that we'd have another creative element, like a 3rd or 4th person in this band. I feel like we bounce ideas back and forth really well. It's like one of us comes up with a riff, the other person's like, hey, that's really cool, let's modify it in this way though, and we sort of go back and forth for a while, and I feel like we work really well together, and I feel that shows on Oathbreaker. I feel like there's a good melding of our creative energies on Oathbreaker. So I feel like we definitely have the personality that works really well. I think that David's way more of a perfectionist than I am. Like, there's plenty of times where I'm like, oh, that sounds good enough, let's do that, and then David's like, no, no, we gotta, and he just keeps doing it over and over again and tweaking these tiny little things. Like, he's the guy that the reason the album doesn't sound like shit is because he's willing to like actually like like tweak those tiny little details that I definitely don't have the patience for. So that's I definitely could. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, David, first off, if of course people can't see this, guys, isn't he a dead lookalike for Dave Davidson of Revocation? Fucking spot on.
Yeah, he looks like him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's his indie rock band that he plays in.
Yeah. That's so that pays the bills, but when I'm here doing stuff for Hoth, it's what I like. So
David, when you sound like a pretty tech savvy guy, doing a lot on your Mac.
Can you hear the scorn and distaste in the way he says that
I
word?
like how this is going so far.
Mac.
As music continues to shift away from actually people needing to play instruments and more to the tech side of it, what is your take on all of that?
I think one of the most important parts about creating music for people and what makes it the best to listen to and the most repeatable and enjoyable is having that organic element and having actually played some part of it. I do also make a lot of electronic music, and I try to integrate organic instruments or organic percussion in there because it keeps it still human. And when you program something and it's all on a grid, I think your curve for your listener fatigue is a lot shallower, and you get sick of listening to it. And it's funny, I'm extremely opinionated. Eric and I talk a lot about music, and I think maybe 30% of all the words that come out of my mouth are critiques of other people's music. And the number one thing I'm saying right now, I'm complaining about music that's entirely electronic. It's all samples, and it's all thrown together, and it's cut up vocals, and it's getting massively popular. These like really like psychedelic down tempo things, wind chimes and synth pads, and I listen to that and it just does nothing for me because there's no one playing an instrument. And I think once you stop playing instruments, it's almost not musical.
It's called
in the same
play.
sense.
I will never be able to be okay with the fact that there is rich DJs out there. I don't get that.
Agree. 100% agree.
Did you see
I don't 100% agree, actually.
Whoa!
Whoa!
I had a discussion. I think it was the other week. So I definitely agree that there's a huge element of actual musicianship, but for me, I think that the number one thing that that's important to me is overall composition. So I agree that like shit that's all chopped up, with your wind chimes and crap, and what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, and that stuff's awful. But I think that overall, like a composition, like like for a lot of video games and lower budget films, you have someone who's composed multiple layers, and I don't think that you can discount using like a synthetic orchestra.
Yeah.
So I think that for me, composition and musical composition, the songwriting itself is the number one thing. But that's not to say that I don't appreciate seeing awesome musicianship. But I guess to me, is when you look at all the musicians, there's a million great guitarists that can totally shred, that can play any song in the world. But the number of great guitarists that can actually also write a great song is a much smaller number.
Very small.
So for me, composition is the highest level that I look at. And if it means that the entire thing is electronic, it was all done on a computer, but the composition is still there, it's an emotive, song that you're listening to and it really speaks to you, that's important to me. But yeah, I also love watching people play guitar. I love the human element. So when you bring those two together, which you often get a lot of times in heavy metal, it's awesome. But I'm not going to totally discount someone who only works with electronic music.
It doesn't go towards the electronic thing, but that's why Jimmy Page is God. Yeah, to me, Jimmy Page is just the greatest composer, as it were. You know what I mean? Technically not a great guitar player, but amazing. Sorry, George, you were jumping in.
I was going to say, did you see the fake Foo Fighters breakup video?
I saw it posted. I just didn't watch it.
Yeah, it's like a lot of their stuff. It's kind of a funny response to the rumors that they were breaking up, and in it, Dave Grohl is hanging out with Butch Vig and talking about how he needs to go solo, And Butch Vig is like, well, all you got to do is go over to the keyboard here and you just hit this one key. And that's all you got to do, and then you just sing, and and he's like, you mean like this, and and it's like boom dee dee boom dee dee boom dee dee, and so it's just kind of funny.
Now, guys, what about those bands? The one thing I have to say, I don't like any electronic music because to me it's not music. To me, you guys said music to me is still playing an instrument. But the one thing I have to give the nod to the current technology and where it's going is it does allow that if I wanted to, it wouldn't sound good, but I don't know how to play guitar. I don't know how to play bass, drums, anything like that. I could purchase expensive software and I could build a band and write songs like that.
Yeah,
it's cool. I think for some people who are limited, maybe if they don't have a drummer, if there's digital drum tracks that they are able to use and to fill in, more power to them. But it's hard.
Yeah. I think the current software allows a lot more accessibility for people to get out there and sort of be creative, which I think is really great. On the other hand, you get a lot of crap that you have to sift through, but just like we talked about Bandcamp already, but you can go through, there's so many people that are able to make music. I mean, if you go 10 or 20 years ago, I mean, there's probably the same number of creative people, but so many of them just don't have access to instruments and recording equipment, and that they have the ability to get their music out there now, and so that's really cool. You can hear stuff now that as long as you're willing to sift through the crap, that you probably would never have been able to do without the internet and without all this software that's available.
Right.
I was going to add, to the conversation, we were talking about new technology and music production and accessibility. I saw this site the other day. I think it's called Hit Record, and it's like a Reddit combined with social media. And what you do is you make your own profile and you submit tracks. You say, I'm a guitarist, and then here's a little riff I made. And then it goes up there, and it's all survival of the fittest. People upvote and downvote different riffs and stuff. And then they have the option to collaborate with it if you let them. So someone will respond and say, I want to collaborate with you, and then you can say yes. And then they had a really cool demo for it where they showed a bunch of people around the world putting in percussion and vocals and different things. And it's kind of crazy to see. I mean, maybe only a narrow application of just kind of continuing the story of your song, but I think we're going to see a lot more crazy and innovative ways of making music in the future.
That sounds like the best way to make lowest common denominator shit music.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure you're not. I could go on there wearing corpse paint and be like, and then somebody would like sing about
rap over it.
Yeah, they'd rap over it, and it would just be fucked.
Crowdsourced composition.
Wow, man,
guys,
he took all that optimism and he just shoved it right back in your face, didn't he? He was like, "This is amazing." He's like, "It sucks." I feel like if we tried really hard, we could break this band up by the end of this interview.
Maybe we can get into a fist fight.
Yeah,
it'd be a funny record.
I have to ask. I am a big Reddit guy. You can come on there. I love the one meme on Reddit where they use the Mr. Burns from Simpsons. He's like, I bring you love. And he's like, he brings you love, break its legs. That's Reddit. It's a horrible place. You post like cute little puppies and people will bash you, downvote you. Who had the balls, I should say, to go on Reddit and to say, hey guys, we're Hoth. Here's our album Oathbreaker. Check it out. And the comments were overwhelmingly positive. But that was a big, you're taking a chance there.
Well, we use a combination of brainwashing and pseudo-psychological techniques in our music itself. But Eric can answer this.
Yeah. I figure, so after we recorded Oathbreaker, I figured, it's like, we poured ourselves into it, and I figure, the music is going to speak for itself. We put it out there, people will listen to it, and the music will speak for itself. So if people like it, it'll work. So I figured, I wasn't going to try and some sort of trickery to get people to listen to it. I was like, well, I'm just going to put it here, and people can listen to it. It wasn't. I just tried to keep it simple. Yeah. And it worked out. I don't know if it was just luck, if it was a fluke, but people liked it, and that's super humbling to hear that after you spend all this time creating something that other people actually want to listen to it. So it was cool. It worked out.
Have you got any like vile hate comments or anything? And you're like, oh, a simple I don't like it would have worked.
Actually,
Not at all. I'm like, you know what? Someone like come at me, bro. Like, please, someone criticize us.
No, I mean, like the worst that anybody's said is like, oh, it's kind of generic. Like, oh, you know, like nobody's ever said it like straight up sucks. It's just people are like, I don't know, it's okay.
But
Like,
then you go
was-
listen to their profile and see what they listen to, and it's all like Phil Anselmo and I Hate God, and I'm like, well, there you go. You don't like black metal. Bullshit. Like,
It was probably Lars. He was just like, that's so stock.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see because somebody who's on there many times a day. It was cool to see nothing but positivity flowing on your guys' post there.
just wait until our next album. Then
Have you guys? I mentioned it. You said you don't know when it'll be out. It's out when it's out. Do you guys even have anything down on paper? Are you guys, maybe worried about your personal lives right now? Are you waiting? Is Hoth going to be put on the back burner right now because the Vision comes out on Tuesday? I know I'm going to be playing a lot of that. What are you guys? Is Hoth is kind of in a holding pattern now?
No, it's slow and steady. I think that we have 3 partially recorded tracks right now for a new album.
we've got a lot of demos and ideas, and one of the things we do before we start even working on an album is we meet up and we have some beers and we outline it, and that way we kind of have a blueprint, at least a thematic blueprint. And so we've got that in place already, and yeah, there's a lot of demos coming and big aspirations for this album. Of course, every time we make an album, we want to do a bunch of things way better, like how we did from Infinite Darkness to Oathbreaker, and now from Oathbreaker to what's happening now, we want it even better. So, yeah, but it's not. Don't worry, it won't take 5 years.
Yeah, we're not gonna Yari this.
Or tool it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Opeth is my favorite band. Their last couple albums, they have changed completely from what they were as a band. Will we see you guys making any big changes out of right field, or anything? Is there anything you guys want to do?
I think that this next album will sort of be the natural progression from Oathbreaker in that sort of direction. I think that's how you could describe it. I don't think we're going to become all atmospheric prog rock all of a sudden, so you don't have to worry about that.
We have some listeners who are upset now at that statement, but
John is not pleased.
yeah, you know those prog guys. They're a passionate bunch,
And they're better than the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously listened to Oathbreaker 6,000 times, and when I listen to it, what stands out to me is there were some parts where we might have cut corners. Now, this is just me being extremely critiquing of it, but I think we want to have more of a tangential melodies where things just where the songs feel like they're going off in their own direction, and they don't repeat themes too often, and when they do, it's maybe more planned and not forced.
I don't know what he's talking about.
I think on the new album we just want to have we want to have songs that are even more interesting to listen to,
Yeah.
that don't have as much repetition. No verses and choruses rigid like it was.
Dude, as much as you may not have a formula, you got a formula, and you even if you don't know it. And I think that's a real natural thing to kind of start falling into your own little formula. I mean, like Opeth is a great example, Buke, because there's 8 million refs in any given Opeth song.
Yeah.
But there's still a formula, because you go in and you know what I mean? Well, for one thing, 5 records in, it can get a little dull. So it is. I think it's real hard to break your own natural tendencies.
But yeah, you just said something that I find really interesting about this Oathbreaker album is that just when you think you know what the album is, something else hits you. Like, again, I was listening last night while playing Street Fighter. Great fighting music for the band. Great music. And when Acolyte came on, there were songs towards the end of it. And I'm like, man, this is like a different sound than I've heard on the album yet. You guys kept doing that track after track were little hints. So you guys, I say all this because next album, you guys have a huge, swath of sounds and to play with.
Mm-hmm.
You guys really aren't. You really haven't. Put yourself in a corner. Nobody puts Oath in a corner.
I think
I'm sorry.
We're also very big fans of Opeth, and one of the things I really like about Opeth is, and this sounds kind of cheesy, but I can listen to their music and I can close my eyes, and it has what I call musical imagery, for instance, like Watershed and Ghost Reveries, I get imagery like that. The music itself tells a story to me above and beyond the vocals and the lyrics.
There's a compositional narrative, and that was something that we consciously tried to work into Oathbreaker, and something that we want to do on our future releases as well. Like
Is
we
it
said,
Star Wars, Angry Typing Guy? Star Wars?
It's the hero's tragedy.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So that was something we did on Oathbreaker. That's something I want to do in the future on future stuff, and that's why I don't want to have much repetition on the album. I want it to feel like you're listening to it, but you're also experiencing a story, almost like a film. And
absolutely. I think that's a great term, compositional narrative. That's fabulous, because I think with the best music, and honestly, you can even do it with some of the really formulaic music. But if you kind of lay back and close your eyes and just do the kind of Carl Jung, active imagination thing, you're going to get a story,
Totally.
Yeah, and that's awesome, man. So that's really cool that you guys, that's part of your focus, is to let that kind of happen as you're playing. That's good stuff.
Like a lot of metal bands are like, get ready for 45 minutes of brutal punishment, and then it's like all the same drone of, like, we could do that, and we do that sometimes, but yeah, I think metal as a genre is often gets boxed as being just monotone brutality, and it's really it's really fairly evolved, and it's got all these things from jazz and classical music put together, and I mean, maybe Eric and I are delusional, but we view it as a pretty high form of art and expression.
Of course.
You're preaching to the choir over here for sure, all of us.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have been told this. For me, I have mentioned on the pod many times, I am not the biggest black metal guy. I'm more of a death metal guy. George is black metal himself.
I'm everything.
But you have more so black metal now. George just comes and goes. He's waves.
And George definitely looks the most grim and frostbitten out of all of you. So
that's why he said so little too. He can't break that. We got to keep that kind of silent, scary thing going.
I've black metal, not to throw any band under the bus, but to me, black metal was always, and George, like we've said before, George will say that's early black metal. It's not like that anymore. It's the boring blast beats. They go into the growling. I can't stand it. It bores the fuck out of me.
But he loves the new Death Heaven.
is there? Yeah, of course.
Guys, yes, that's a great question. These guys are perfect to ask. Have you guys, as a black metal band, have you heard Death Heaven, and what's your thoughts on them?
I have listened.
Okay.
It's not bad, but it's not my thing.
Okay.
Can I say it's hipster black metal?
Yeah.
Of course you can. Of course you can. Yeah, they're pretty.
I think there's a lot of music coming up right now that's heavy or hard sounding, but it's not and it's not metal. And I'm not talking about Death Heaven. I'm talking about like I group Death Heaven and these other genres together. Eric and I call it, there's this other genre, and Eric and I call it vest metal. It's like all the
doom stoner,
Red Fang, Black Tusk, the Portland, San Francisco, Denver bands. And like, we just drink beer to have a good time, and then we kind of riff. And a lot of this is, just check out these minor pentatonic scales, and then there's all these people that are like, you guys have a metal band? Well, I'm into metal, like Red Fang and Kvelitak.
There is a hipster. There's this weird hipster thing that happened where they've claimed, in some cases, some legit bands, but also like Sleep. Sleep is Sleep. They play here all the time. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm in Berkeley.
He says almost half admittingly, like, no,
because the scene here is fucked now, dude. And believe me, my band here is like, we're looked at funny. We're kind of more of a new wave of British heavy metal, kind of thrashy. And trust me, that thing ain't happening here right now. But all I mean to say is, there's the hipsters. Just, it's hard to go to a Sleep show. I don't like going to, because they'll also latch onto some pretty good bands. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, dude. And we talked about this a lot when Lemmy died, because Lemmy was one of these guys that became an icon that kind of
Transcended music.
Yeah, and so it was okay for like a lot of people like that to be like, yeah, Lemmy's a badass, even though they never heard of anything but Ace of Spades. And we have this kind of whole thing, which is like, get off our fucking porch, dude. You know what I mean? Like, we put in the time, and we all really care about this stuff, and we really understand the ins and the outs of it to the point where, you know, I know why Tom G. Warrior is an important motherfucker.
Yeah.
Get off my fucking porch! You know, I just can't take it, dude.
I think a lot of people can't quantify why hipsters are so infuriating when they encroach on their own territory, and I think I've put a lot of thought into this. Eric and I talk about this kind of stuff
But
all
you're
the
in
time.
the indie rock band. Aren't you labeled a hipster when you play in that band all the time?
Probably.
Okay, Eric, is he wearing his keys on a carabiner right now?
Oh, yeah, he always loses his keys. I don't even know what they are.
I don't know where they are.
I want to hear this point. He was getting ready to nail some shit.
So I think hipsters are infuriating because they do things, they're disingenuous and they do things for social reasons. And so there's all these people just tragically hip at a sleep show or like getting really into Red Fang, and then they start kind of lumping themselves in with the metal crowd, and we're like, bro, posers and wimps need to leave the hall. Sorry. You're going to be crushed with nuclear drums if you stick around any longer.
You saying this is hipster now? The sunbather? This is hipster?
Yep.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean,
No, you don't have to. Buke is not a fan. He buys the records because, you know, it's just like this thing happening in metal now.
yeah.
But and not to speak for Buke, but trust me, everything you're saying is resonant with all of us.
Yeah.
But guys, as you know, as a band playing a form of music right now, that black metal is almost seeing this second breath. It seems like, you know, like a second life. It's really coming to the forefront. It seems, and it seems like the trends in black metal are more so than any other form of metal. George, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but you remember like when the symphonic black metal by Dimmu was popular, you saw a couple copies of Dimmu popping up.
A couple?
Yeah.
A lot.
A lot.
Anytime anybody does something new that sounds different or it's innovative. I mean, Ghost is a great example. You know, Ghost probably sparked a lot of this retro stoner stuff in a sense because people were like, oh, hey, that's kind of popular. And so, you know, the labels are all scrambling to find people that sound like that. It's just like, I mean, like, you know, Seattle there, when Nirvana hit, everybody moved to Seattle and all the labels went to Seattle. And the next thing you know, this thing that was new and cool is now annoying because everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
Well, so on the next album, don't go hipster on us, boys, please.
We might do an April Fool's Day joke.
Yes.
We actually, yeah, that might be a good time to unveil something. We do a lot of joke music too, and I'm pretty sure I've made fun of every genre that I've complained about today. So I've made like the wind chimes, all electronic, ducking, backbeat, cut up vocal stuff, and I think I posted it on SoundCloud for like 2 days, and I was like, stop fucking doing this. And then after a while, I was like, man, I'm this old, and I still have to tell people what music sucks. Like I should just go. I should just start having fun.
That's good.
But we've also made some vest metal.
Okay, but guys, do you get any flack from other bands like, hey, leave us alone, you know? Stop messing with us.
I'm sure we
Well,
would.
yeah, we're gonna get all sorts of angry emails after you air this.
Hey,
You're
guys
assuming we have a listenership there.
you're only big
We do.
in Hungary right now, so don't worry.
Yeah.
Hungary,
Knowing our luck,
Actually, we have some listeners in Hungary.
yeah,
And we're going to help you break into Lithuania, too. So get ready, boys.
boys, we're having a great time listening. I wanted to remind our listeners again, we're talking to Hoth, their album Oathbreaker. You can get it on Bandcamp right now. We all recommend it, going out and picking it up. We wanted to intro our first track we're going to play from you guys right now. The first track we're going to play is the song Serpentine Whispers. You want to tell us a little bit about that one, boys?
It's track number 4?
3, 4, yeah.
4? Yeah, something. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. last
Four.
time
It's okay. You're in the band. You can change it up as much as you want.
So this was I think, was this the third track we recorded for the album? Yeah, we definitely didn't record the album in the order. The first track we did was Acolyte. That was the first track that we recorded. So I think this was the third one we recorded for the album. And from the beginning, it was kind of like we wanted to have we've got this choral bit that we recorded in the middle. And that was sort of from the beginning kind of our focal piece. We were like, hey, let's so the rest of the song was kind of built around that bit in the middle of the song there. So that was sort of the genesis of that song. And I think it turned out pretty well. It's kind of fun. I think that I hope that when people start listening to the song and they get to that portion, their ears kind of perk up and they're like, "Oh, what's this?"
Yep.
You know. So that
it did to mine. Yep.
It's definitely one of the more accessible songs on the album, and it's pretty straightforward, and it's a good tune.
So, yeah.
Perfect summation, dude.
I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that.
No, don't move an inch, bro. You're beautiful the way you are.
Fun fact: the choral bit's in Latin.
yeah.
It's a good dude.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I wanted to ask you guys that. Who was it? That friend of yours, the one singing in Latin? In yours, Eric?
We both sang that part actually. 30 of us. 15 of me and just kidding. It was 30 of me and one of Eric. No, but
They just mixed me out.
yeah, I mixed them out. I did it to the bass player.
Right, dude. Listen close. There you are, right there. You don't hear it?
Yeah, so we actually sang that part together, and Eric is the linguist. So
Yeah. So I
We got
for-
pianist and linguist in the same interview. Woo! This is getting dirty.
So I studied Latin because I thought it was going to be super useful. And it turned out it did because I wrote 2 lines for a song later.
Nailed it.
But yeah, so I studied Latin at university, and so I was like, hey, well, Latin's cool, so let's write some lyrics. So that's what I did. It's probably the only time I ever used Latin after school. So glad it got some use.
Hey, you have more albums on the horizon. Don't say the only time, okay?
Yep.
So here we go. This is Serpentine Whispers.
All right, here we are at the end of the episode, and as promised, we're going to have another song for you from Hoth and their album Oathbreaker. This song is called Acolyte of the Tenebrous Night. Tell us anything about this song.
So this is the song. We've got a cello intro. I think that some people, they listen to it and they think that it's not real cello. But we actually did find something with the cello, and
It's real cello.
It's real cello, but we mixed it, so we've got a couple layers there of the cello to sort of give it a more of a foreboding feeling. And this was the first.
Like a cello needs any help, I like that. Wah, wah. How could we make this sadder and somehow more funereal?
Equalization.
Well played, sir.
Yeah.
This one was fun. Like, this was sort of when we started putting our heads together for the new album. This is sort of the first of our ideas that sort of once we had this song down, I think it sort of shaped our direction. We were like, hey, this fits right in the middle of where we want to go from our first track to our last track.
Cool.
So this was sort of our anchoring point, if you will, when we started writing the album. We came up with some of the riffs for this, and I think the main riff you hear at the beginning, that's like the first thing that was ever recorded.
Yeah.
And so that's like the first thing that we ever recorded, and we're like, hey, that's really cool. So that's sort of like, that first riff you hear is the first thing that was ever recorded on this album, and I think it really served as the anchor of where we wanted to go. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, like Eric said, it's a thematic cornerstone of the album, and personally, I think it's the best flowing song, the most cohesive.
Cool.
And it's also kind of the peak of the album too, where in the hero's story where he is the most evil and the worst things are happening, and yeah.
This song is a perfect example why I despise people who just listen to tracks and not albums. Because if you listen to any of the tracks before this, you miss out on how it flows right into this with that awesome cello opening and stuff, and it's bombastic. How about that word?
Because that's exactly how we wanted you to listen to it. Like, that's perfect. I'm glad you feel that way, because that's really, we wanted the album to be a piece as a whole. We didn't want people to chop it up.
Yeah, I think the type of people that just listen to tracks, it's like if you ordered a pizza and you're like, here's a slice of pizza, and then someone's like, I just want to eat the cheese. I'm going to eat the cheese off of that. That's really weird, man. Just like...
It sounds like a Seattle thing, though.
It's a Seattle thing. Can I just get cheese?
No, they actually deliver pizzas like that in Seattle. Yeah.
But yes, gentlemen, this track, it's just the album's building and building and building, and then boom, and oh man, I think maybe us as metalheads, I think that we are still that rare breed that does still listen to full albums. So,
a lot of us. A lot
of
that don't. Yeah, a lot don't. Unfortunately, we're getting into some troubling territory now, but. Well, that's a story for another day. Yeah. Then Hot Topic stays open somehow.
Yep.
Before we play the song, we want to thank you guys for coming on today and ask how people can hear your music, get a hold of you, whatnot before.
Well, you can find us on Bandcamp, hothmusic.bandcamp.com. We have a website, hothmetal.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can shoot us a message. We usually respond if you're nice.
We respond to every dumb message.
Yeah, actually, we respond to every single message. Dumb or smart, it doesn't matter. You can message us.
They responded to me. They're nice guys.
Yeah, and everybody knows you're dumb. So, I mean, that's a beautiful...
If you want to order the album, we've got it available digital, and we also have physical copies of CDs, and if you order one of those, then it's going to mean that I'm going to have to drive to the post office and stand in line and mail it out to you, so put me to work.
I'm buying some shirts, baby.
And we have new shirts.
We do have new shirts. David is repping one of the new shirts.
Awesome.
It's got the Lich King on it. This thing, we have a local artist named Dusty Peterson. He has a website, theartofdustypeterson.com. He's actually going to be at Emerald City Comic Con in April, and the guy's a gentleman and a scholar and
an artist.
And an artist. Yeah, mostly he's a very talented artist.
Cool.
How's the 2X sell out that fast?
Are you one of those guys that need
I don't. In my defense, I can get away with an XL, but they shrink.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
So these new shirts are actually a little bigger than the other ones.
I'm wearing a medium, and I look like the kid that wore a T-shirt to the pool. Like, it's kind of.
Hey, I was that kid sometimes.
Did you get the nipple shave?
Yeah, I would say it's to. Inside, I knew it was to hide my man boobs, but I would tell people I burn easily.
I have delicate skin. Yes.
Well, we'll when we finish this run, we'll do some more of the 2X and XLs.
I just bought one, gentlemen. So if that can't say enough how much I love you guys. Again,
Obviously, well, we need to get you to the post office, so let's wrap this up, Buke.
Oh, seriously, I've been to the post office like every week for the past like year and a half. I know the lady on the first name basis at the post office. Like
That's that fucking Hoth guy.
But yeah, thanks for having us on here.
And I also want to appreciate that you guys aren't like totally wasted and mumbling all your questions. Like,
you guys have
get that a lot
where guys come on and they're interviewing you. It's just a shit show.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't want to name any names, but
No interviews.
Just believe it. George here would never. George is such
The
a
Hungarians. Ooh,
Yeah,
did I?
the Hungarians.
Which is not to say we haven't consumed a lot of beer while recording a podcast, but not on interviews.
But keep it together, keep it together, keep it together.
Well, it's because we have a beer guy who actually comes in with metal beers, and so we got to taste them. What are you going to do?
Well, that's awesome. We're huge beer fans, so we approve of that. But you're not like slurring your words or like falling asleep, so I appreciate that a lot.
We don't need to be drunk to do that. This comes out naturally.
You know what I like about those guys in Hoth? It's metal. Yeah. No, dude, you guys are a blast, man. It's really fun to talk to you guys.
Gentlemen, I know this was a couple months in the making, so thanks for sitting down to join us.
Absolutely, it was great talking to you guys, and looking forward to hearing the podcast as a whole.
Yep, we'll send you links when it's up.
And
Great.
All right, here it is, Acolyte of the Tenebrous Night.